This is a good news kind of day. Welcome to Navigating the Shift. Things are really starting to shift. It's like Dan Scavino tweeted pictures of crocuses, that it's been a long winter, nothing's been happening, and suddenly it's up in full bloom. Things are starting to move now, and people are really feeling it. Annabelle, you and I both have experienced just like suddenly going, I want to get this housework done. Stuff that we're like, yeah, no, for like a year at least.
It's totally amazing. The energy is
great.
Stirring up.
Yeah.
Look at you. You look fabulous today.
I'm feeling so much more like me.
Yeah.
I looked in the mirror and went, oh, there I am. That's so great. And I realized also recently that this thing I had where they irradiated me, gave me so much radiation, and I got so sick that my body has adapted. It's now like, okay, I detoxed from that, but now I'm fine with it. And I don't get sick when I'm around those appliances that were putting out electromagnetic radiation so high.
Wow.
It doesn't bother me anymore. It's just like,
glow green at nighttime or anything like that? Not that you know of.
I hope not. So, and then I started thinking about it. There's a huge amount of radiation outside of the atmosphere. A lot of what the atmosphere does, right, is filter that out. But extraterrestrials live out there all the time. They can handle it. Maybe it's part of our evolution. I mean, you know, how so many things that the bad guys do, that their intention is to do bad stuff, but we flip it all the time.
We do.
So all this electricity, radiation stuff they've been dumping on us, we're going, yeah, good, done. Yeah. I'll just turn it into fuel. I'll use it to transform my body.
Amazing.
How cool is that? So that's a little bit,
isn't it? Really, it's the
a little bit out there. Yeah, but what you believe, you manifest, and that's a pretty good belief system.
Conversation that's worth getting into at some stage. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Prince Phillip died.
Yeah.
Supposedly. It doesn't feel
at least they announced it. Yeah, that was a bit ago. But an interesting read on that. The last show I did, I talked about the ceremony what happened in Egypt with the 22 mummies, and how I felt like it was honoring the sacred feminine, and it also had some way of shifting or closing a negative portal or something. And somebody else talked about it, was that the deep state players, they have a way of having a child the day they die, and they don't die, they just transfer themselves into this child of their same genetic line. So they bypass reincarnation and that period of stepping out into spirit where you reevaluate your life, so they don't grow. And the hit I got was that this ceremony stopped that from happening. Whatever that system was, you could say portals. Portals wasn't quite the right word, but it was some kind of something that allowed something to go through in a way that was negative. And maybe that's what they did, was they shut that down. They can't do that anymore. So when he actually, passed away, whenever it was, that's it. He can't come back and keep doing it.
Yeah. That's interesting. There was a movie with Kate Hudson in it. I think it was called Skeleton Key or something like that, where they had African slaves in America, and they practiced voodoo, and they could take themselves out and put themselves into two new characters. Like it was a male and a female, and they wanted to move into a male and female role, but they needed to find people that would believe what they were doing. That was part of the voodoo. And if they believed it, then they could use them. It's not like they were willing; they just had to believe it was possible. And so they, the two black slaves, got into the bodies of the owner of the land, his two children, a boy and a girl, and the boy and the girl, and they swap bodies. So then these two slaves are now his children, going, "Daddy, help us, And the kids are going, they tried to kill us, or something like that. Or I can't remember exactly, but they killed the two black slaves. So that was the end of the children. And they just kept on swapping bodies down the generations. So that's what that reminds me of, this idea of that's voodoo, going from one body into the next.
And it taps back into what you believe you manifest.
Exactly.
Nice. Full circle on that one. Yeah. And we've been talking quite a bit about, everybody has ever given the ship by Evergreen and the Suez Canal. And that's connected also, I think, to the 22 Mummy Parade. There's something that happened there. Now, you and I believe, and we've talked about this before, and a lot of people talked about it, that there was human trafficking on there, probably some of those illicit drugs, the one that starts with an A, probably, things like that that were not good. And it stopped. Whatever happened, whoever took control of that ship and ran it aground, that's a long thought out plan. Well done.
There were two more interpretations of what was on that ship as well. One of them was saying that there were weapons of mass destruction that were headed for the Middle East, even though the ship was actually heading for Netherlands, I think. Taiwanese ship heading to Netherlands, that they had weapons on there that was meant to start a war. That's a possibility. The other was this really amazing Turkish television clip that was talking about it being some very special technology that would flick on the 5G, and that would affect everybody with low immunity, and it would also accelerate climate change. So whatever was on there, they said, and the guy said it was 30 years of research that helped them put that together. So
I believe he was talking about what happened to it from the point of view of bad guys, but they got caught, not like it was a whole huge white hat operation, but that's both of our reads on it was white hats got in there and stopped this. It's good news. And now Egypt wants $1 billion for their lost revenue, which Evergreen isn't paying, so they can salvage the ship. That's the rules.
Right.
And the rule, I was just reading it. If you put them aground, if they run into the ground and unable to move, and then somebody comes and helps, and there's certain ways that they help, or if they don't, all of this stuff, then it can be salvaged. So how clever is that? That would make it absolutely 100% what's in there. And you think about it, Evergreen doesn't just ship its own stuff. People hire them to move things. So if their stuff is salvaged, but it's illegal, bad stuff, they're not going to come back after Evergreen and go, we want compensation for our illegal weapons, drugs, and human trafficking people. Well, it's just like, think of how far this can ripple out.
Yeah.
Good
Magnificent
stuff.
move. Magnificent.
Yes.
On the world stage. So yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So also in Egypt, they moved these mummies because they built this new big museum. But the museum is actually 50% larger than they need to house everything they've got. So they're expecting more. And then there's this huge announcement about finding the city of Aten. The Aten city is Akhenaten city, the one god. So it's a complete shift in a lot of the dialogue. I hope that the classic Egyptologists can also, experience an opening and get off this solid, no, we've already decided this. There's films of them going, I don't want to talk about this. I will not talk about it. It's not even a question. It's been decided. It's like, really? Is this science? Well, now it is.
Yeah. The impression I get is that for a lot of scientists, the higher up the hierarchy they are, the more egotistical they are about their expertise, and therefore they will be the slowest adopters of new information. They will be left behind all the rest of the public.
Oh my gosh. The other thing, there's this guy, Richard Citizen, who lives in Washington, D.C., and he goes out and films stuff, right? And he's been filming the fences and everything. So he recently filmed that they put sandbags all around the vents down into the underground systems. The drainage fence, like sandbag walls around them. So he was watching them, and all of a sudden, everything from underground is flooding. So it looks like they're flooding out the tunnels.
But where's the water coming from? Because if there's enormous...
From the Potomac River.
Won't that drain it? I mean, there's meant to be kilometers and miles for you, miles and miles of tunnels. Won't it drain the river if they're going to use...
Well, it isn't going to stay in there. It's going to flood through it and go back into the river.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I believe there was a Q post about flooding out the tunnels 3 times just to make sure nobody got away. And I started thinking about it. We looked at the way the astrology with where the planet Jupiter's gone is mimicking revelations, which would mean the tribulations ended on March 23rd this year. Yay. But think about it, the Great Flood. How biblical can you get, right?
Right. Flush it out. Where's the ark?
Where's the ark? Right. Get me that ark. So the other sort of interesting things coming out around the world are leaks of accidental interview things and stuff like that. For instance, there was a guy in Britain, a doctor, and the host was asked him a question and he said, well, about the vaccine. He says, yes, we want to get it out by autumn, but you have to realize that only 50 to 70% of sterilization will happen from this. We won't get complete sterilization. It won't be 100% complete. And the host interrupts him and says his name, and the guy who's talking doesn't realize that he's made a mistake, it appears, and just says, well, I just want to finish up with this. And then the host goes, okay, well, thank you, Dr. Bell, for coming on the show, and cuts it off. But it's like really obvious. He's like, should I get him to correct it or just hope nobody notices and not point it out? And, so that, there you go.
But that could have been watched by millions of people. Do you think that was, again, we got to wonder, is that planned or not? Or are they using word of God technology to plant these ideas into people's heads?
Interesting.
While they're on the set and drop the thought into his head so it comes out of his mouth, and then he goes, wait a minute. Well, he didn't even know. You're talking like he didn't even know that it just fell out of his mouth.
Exactly. So it's part of the showing people what's really going on in the media. And Project Veritas, who always goes out and gets these secret video recordings, got the creativity director or technical director or something of CNN, right? And he was saying how, we basically got Trump out of office.
Yeah. And
amongst
a number
other
of different people, wasn't it? Like different interviews with people from CNN, like they were targeting. And their whole, but I noticed that whole arrogant thing, like, we did it. We got him out. We convinced everybody that he was sick or that he was in his head, or, we did that. And
we made this stuff up and sold it. And then he was talking about putting the numbers of how many people died on every screen on the side, and fear sells. And I even found myself looking at it and thinking, we need higher numbers. We should pump up those numbers. It needs to be more. Wow. That's a good leak.
People. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
The arrogance
of
this. And then he also said it comes straight from the top from Zucker. Another thing, recently somebody filmed General Flynn, and he was talking, and I have to paraphrase, but basically he said, Trump is still our president. And everybody just started hooting and applauding and everything. That's pretty amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So a lot of people are going, what's going on with the plan? Why are we not getting anything from Trump and the team? It seems like nothing's going on. Biden still appears to be in the White House, So I looked into that, and I got something that kind of matched something I got 6 months ago, which is that Trump doesn't want to be president another year. That wasn't the plan. That he's actually relieved that he doesn't have to do that anymore, and he can enjoy his wonderful life with his business, makes more money, whatever it is. I mean, that was not a fun job for him. That was really hard, and his whole family was in danger. So that's stressful. And I read his energy, checked into his energy, and I just felt this like satisfaction, and I did it. I got it done. Now I can just enjoy my life. So when it comes out that Mr. B is not really the president, and there was all this election problems, shenanigans, that I don't think they're just going to put him in.
No.
I think they'll have another election, and he may not even run. Be interesting. He would definitely back someone if somebody else ran. But I just got this great sense from him that he didn't want to go back and do that again at all. He's
politics
done.
was never his thing, you know. He was business. He was liked business.
And there's that interview from 80s, I think, where it said, you're the great businessman. Everybody respects you. Have you ever thought about becoming president? And he said, oh, to me, that looks like a very mean life. So that's where he's coming from. He jumped into that mean life, but he's happy to be out of it. And all those scenes when they're saying goodbye and leaving and all that stuff, the whole family looks so happy.
Yeah.
There's no, oh, we've been defeated, but put on a good face. It looked like, felt like genuine joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they'd known that they were going to, all the evidence would eventually come out.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Russia, you said you saw a speech by Putin as well. I only saw a few memes on social media. I didn't get to see the whole speech.
I have like 3 paragraphs I can read.
Oh,
he's basically calling out the deep state and everybody. He says, I'm tired today, tired of everything. I want to speak to all sides of the world. What the hell is going on here? What evil plans do you dream of? You sacrifice the innocent soul and victims of your dirty politics in the world. You keep washing people's brains with your mainstreams without the same and worldwide. I know your satanic plans to reduce the population of the planet. You are truly evil to use the most vulnerable to your plans. If you think people are simply subjecting themselves to the thought of massacre, leave your position immediately. If the U.S. and Europe don't stop their plans immediately, you will not only face God's wrath, but mine too. Finish your plan right away. Long live God and the homeland, and receive enemies with open arms of death. That was in the Italian media. Now, keep in mind, Putin was a bad guy when he was younger. But my very intuitive and aware Russian friend, her read was that soul left and a highly advanced soul walked in. So his body's still his body. And this is not like clone crap. It's an agreed thing between the souls with spiritual support that, I'm stepping out, you can have my position and do good with it. So,
and it's likely that if you think about it, if he'd been a good guy from the beginning, he never would have got up to that position in the first place. He would have been moved up there and recommended by the people in the system and the KGB and all the rest. So he had to be that kind of person in the first half of his life in order to get into that position. So that makes sense. I
think that's also probably true of Trump. I don't think he was really horribly evil, but he was a player. He was in the, playing the game, and he knew people. He saw a lot of stuff. He participated in stuff. I don't think he went too bad, but the other thing I saw when I was looking at him was the sense that Melania no longer had to play her role, which it was like she came together to be the wife for him. And then I think that her son, Baron, is not his biological child. I think it's he's a hybrid. What is he? He's 6'6" or something, and he's 15. And look at his face. He doesn't quite look human. So he certainly doesn't look anything like his father.
No, I guess not. I mean, he's still got the fair skin.
So what if?
Wow,
right,
you're taking me out on a limb. I didn't think about that today.
Right. So what if Melania and Donald were friends, but they weren't lovers and all that, and they were okay taking on this partnership? She was going to have the child, give it a good father, give him a good father, sorry, Baron, and give him a chance to have the power and the connections and all those other things. They were going to look good together. She was never going to embarrass him. And then when they got done with this, they can move on. How long ago was Trump brought into the plan, and how long ago were they married? That'd be interesting.
Well,
I don't know.
It looks like they've been married for quite a long time, but I mean, that plan's been going a long time. If Trump's uncle in the FBI and picking up on Tesla's material, that's a whole generation before,
Right.
So this is generations long, these plans, I think. And it's unlikely that the looking glass technology was just used by the bad guys. I think that technology would be used by others as well.
I think you're right.
So in Australia, I went to a meetup with some locals who are very woke. And an interesting story came back about Uluru. Do you remember? This was a few months ago. There was talk about the magic box, and I couldn't tune into that, but other people were. So lots of people went up to Uluru, even though there were COVID restraints happening around the place, and people were escaping from the airport and meant to be going to their quarantine. Instead, they were going straight to the rock. And then there was a video that came up. The guy who organized that, Stephen Strong, he suddenly changed the time on the day. Said, no, it's not going to happen. I'm like, this is all coordinated all around the world. All these people are focused on Uluru, and you've decided to change the time. What's going on? And then I saw this video of him. Like, he was there. He was with maybe, I can't picture, maybe 4 or 5 white people in the picture. I could not see any original people, but they don't normally like cameras anyway, because it takes a piece of them. That's part of their tradition to not have their photographs taken. And he was sort of, hey, we're going to get started. Hey. And my intuition is going, this is not what we think it is. What's going on? Anyway, through the gossip, somebody of this group did go up there, and Stephen Strong admitted that he made the whole thing up. He made it up. He knew he wanted to get focus on Uluru, and that was very beneficial, but that was the only way he could think of getting everybody to focus on it at once, because of the portals. So Cryon, Lee Carroll, the channeler, he came to Australia and went up to Uluru and did a blessing up there. And he has always talked for years about the fact that there are, we have a chakra system of 7 up our body, but around the world there are 7 pairs of places that match each other that are chakra points around the earth, and Uluru is one of them. And so that's why Cryon went there. But it's interesting, because there were other people in the group saying, well, we know there's something special under there, and whether it's deep crystals, I think you saw crystals, didn't you? Yeah, yes, but not a contained thing from Pleiades or anything like that. Nope, not there.
No. What I saw was crystals, and I saw energy lines going out all over the planet, sort of reddish orange brown, more reddish orange, connected mountains all around the world.
It's to the pairs, because you've got Mount Shasta and places like that,
Exactly. And then there was a blue-green line of energy that connected bodies of water. I've been to Lake Tahoe a bunch of times, and I checked in, and I was like, whoa, there's a whole bunch of crystals at the bottom of this very deep lake. It was very potent. So those in the bottom of lakes in Titicaca, I just wanted to say that word, on the oceans and everything, it's just two energy lines, the earth and above sea level and the water and below. Although it's not really technically sea level, it's land, because there can be water up there. So, but anyway, you know what I mean. And that's what I saw there. And I didn't see any kind of special box or anything, but people interpret things differently, I thought. But that's unfortunate. When the person who actually attended that came back, did he say to everybody, don't tell anyone?
No.
Why didn't it come out everywhere?
He said to me he didn't feel disgusted. He's kind of gone beyond the judgment thing. He said if we all needed to put our focus on Uluru for some sort of healing or activation or whatever, then it worked. It worked, even though it was a lie. And so that's how he saw it. That was his perspective on it. But everybody in the group, because they had all been focused on it that day as well, some of them were quite pissed off. And I'm like, well, it's not a waste of energy. It's all good. We're all sending good vibes out into the world. And rather than doing that, than keeping busy and not sending out any good vibes, it was better if we could do worse.
Yes. And that speaks to what a whole lot of the world is going through now, or going to go through soon, which is, wait a minute, they fooled me? Because nobody likes to think, oh man, I'm a chump. They totally fooled me. That's a whole uncomfortable position, because it brings up all that shame.
right? It's the ego that does not want to admit that it was wrong. We've all got to be able to go, okay, we did our best. Yeah. I mean, here's another example for me. I think, was it last week or the week before, I was talking about demigods in Greek mythology and how they had female mother and an extraterrestrial or fallen angel father. And where was the mother? Why was the mother not surviving? Maybe none of them survived. And then I had to do an opera last night for radio. So I was studying up. This was a story of Castor and Pollux, a Greek mythology, two brothers, one with a mortal father, one with Zeus or Jupiter as the father. So a demigod and then a regular lad. And they're both very close brothers, very dedicated to each other. And I'm like, oh, so which one got born first and where was the mother? And when you look into the story, I mean, how much has the story been bent? We don't know. But there's four. Helen of Troy was one of the sisters. So there were two sisters and two brothers. And what's weird is that there's part of the story talking about them coming out of an egg. And I'm like, oh, fallen angel. Is this like a reptilian thing? I don't know. But it was like slightly mixed versions of exactly which ones came out of the egg. Did they all come out of eggs? And yeah, all a bit weird. But
well, what if it's
she must have survived to have four.
Well, what if the egg was an artificial womb?
Is it born of a mother if it pops out of an egg?
Well, if it's artificially inseminated, but actually carrying the child would kill the mother because it's too big, what if they put it into an artificial womb
Because it would be too big.
Grow? And it could look like an egg. And what they, nobody's going to say, oh, a mechanical artificial womb. It's an egg. Maybe. But we don't know how much of these stories, I mean, they're thousands of years old, how much of them is accurate. But I just thought it was an interesting little addition because I'd never heard of that in Greek mythology of people coming out of eggs. Not that I study it a lot, but interesting idea. Right. Yeah, kind of cool. So just going back to the not wanting to be wrong, here's an exercise that you can use because we're going to find out things that we were totally wrong about as well. And if you have loved ones who are waking up and having a hard time that have any awareness or willing at all, it's a good exercise for them to do. And all you have to do is say, I usually say 10 times, I am wrong. I am wrong. I am wrong. Oh, I am wrong. I'm so wrong. I'm wrong. And notice when you first start saying it, it's like, and then by the time you get to the 10th one, you're like, yeah, I'm wrong, whatever. Give it a try.
It's a good idea. I always loved the saying, ever since I was doing those channeling sessions so many years ago, the response, well, that's interesting.
Good one.
As well, but just no matter how obscure the information is, rather than going, no, that's rubbish, no, or going, really, could that possibly be? Just go, well, that's interesting. All of it, that's interesting. And then you're not actually coming to any conclusion. It's a much better way to be. We just draw in all the information, go, well, these bits match, this one doesn't. Well, that's interesting.
The other thing that I've used with when somebody runs in their cognitive dissonance wall, it's like, it turns out this is true about, let's say, Bill Clinton going to the island 26 times. You say, how do you reconcile that? The answer I got once was, I can't. Went, okay. Stop right there. Let them go, oh, how do I reconcile that? That might mean I need to think back about my original belief.
Right.
That's interesting. How do you reconcile that? Let's put them together.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much all. I did look at the earthquakes. They're still going on at the Kermadec Islands, but like I said, that is a turning point on the corner of one of the biggest tectonic plates in the world. So it is likely that is more regular sort of seismic activity. And a big one in Hawaii, in Honaunapupu, 22 kilometers east of that spot. And that looked like it's only 3.4 kilometers deep. It's actually quite high. And quite a lot in America, a lot of them in America, like in the center as well as along the edge of the tectonic plate. So I think there's still it's still activity going along there and around Alaska.
We've had a few here in Northern California, and I discovered something. My dog knows when they're coming. She will come and get scared and she wants to get really close to me, and I'll squeeze her tight because she's shaking with fear. I'll squeeze her really tight, like they call them thunder shirts for when dogs are frightened of thunder. If you squeeze them tight, it helps them to calm down. So that's what she wants. And she's like, I'm talking to a client, and she's like, get rid. And she knows when I'm working with a client, you leave mom alone, right? It's like she's being very quiet now because I'm working. So she was like going freaking crazy, and I had to get in your lap now. I'm like, geez, hold on. And then it's like, oh, it happened 3 different times that she got really anxious, and then we had a little earthquake.
Wow.
Not huge, like 2 to 3, and centered about 20 miles north from where I live. That explains why I didn't know it then, but a few months ago, she just woke me up in the middle of the night and wouldn't stop shaking. And I'm like, is there somebody in the house? Is there a fire? With all the fires in this place. Oh, speaking of which, California's doing drought right now. And one time we helped Texas, and I had a client who lives in Texas who said that for 2 days, right around when we did this, they warmed up to almost 70 degrees during the day, which is, I don't know what it is in Celsius, but it wasn't cold for 2 days. So may or may not be cause, it is correlation. So I'd like to ask everybody to help California. It's like 60% of a normal snowpack, and that's not good because we've been having problems with fires. So hopefully this year, we're also going to set the intention that they can't do any shenanigans with starting fires this year, that's over. But at any rate, so can we all just take a moment, realize you do have the power to do this, and you do have the power especially to connect with your angels and the elementals, extraterrestrial friends, all of that. They want to help, but they can only do it if we ask. So visualize, probably I think up into Oregon as well. So let's just do the west coast of the US and ask the element of water to come in. And maybe wind might be needed too. So some air seems to me to get things moving, the clouds, and get a spiral kind of motion going in the air, which helps bring the rain down. Well, I don't know that scientifically. That's just the picture I got. At any rate, let's ask them to come and help. Can we give California some more rain? Or at least set the intention that the optimum rainfall will fall for California. Because there could be a reason why it's better not to that we don't know about yet. But just let's ask for the optimum rainfall to fall for the west coast of the US, and especially my California, because it's all about me. But I don't want to be scared of fires. Oh, no, it's not really it. It's just like, we can do this. We can bring balance to the world. Whatever technology that may or may not have been on the Ever Given, we're more powerful than that. So, balance, optimum timeline outcome. Anywhere else? Shall we give some to Australia? Shall we give some to Europe?
We're doing fine here at the moment.
Okay.
And peace.
Excellent.
Allow the air to bring peace and calm.
Nice. Thank you.
And
it's done. So you don't have to keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah, this is the key. It's not, rather than just going, oh yes, I believe, when you don't actually believe. If you really, truly see it happen and then you just let it slip away and move on to another topic, you don't have the opportunity to go, not really, haha. You don't, you lose that. That's a good way to build up your skills in this manifesting area of believing it, imagine it done, and then move your focus somewhere else.
Right. So it's possible when I was looking at that, it was like, if there's a more optimum reason for there not to be more rain. Well, I said that because it looked like there's been water wars in this state. Water coming from the north going down to Los Angeles, which is really a desert, and it's covered with pools and lawns and things like that. So it's been imbalanced. Water's been sold. Bad things have happened to people. So maybe if there is a drought, then we won't be selling our water so much. And maybe it'll balance out naturally. Maybe new technologies to desalinate water or something like that will have to be developed. There could be another optimum timeline that I'm not aware of. So I just wanted to be open for that.
Yeah, good point.
You don't know. All righty. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Thanks for joining us. Do the whole like, subscribe, and all those groovy things if you haven't already. Thank you. Bye.